supper?
Yeah, I know.
No.
That's what I was told.
I mean,
Good. 2:30.
We get in here.
Safe and sound, everybody good?
Yeah, well, now we got to make a decision.
And they're down.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly.
He's got it
I just
narrowed
let us know,
down.
Mike.
There's a couple now.
How you do, Ryan?
No,
How
I
you?
think it's a solid.
You got to get to meet him at Kelly School. How you do?
How was that? Oh, he's a maniac.
well, I do too. I do too. There's a lot on there I don't understand.
We see
I just
Andrew.
looked up and I'm like, wow, this is a full house.
This one here.
I don't even know if I made enough agendas. There's no more. Well, we're live now. So.
We get our stuff.
I'm not going to see much.
Hi.
I already told him. I said, you stickers and see this kind of
I told him.
He said, I'm ready for it.
You got to go ask him. Good. That's good. That's good.
He's told.
Good deal. How you doing, Scott? I'm just a spectator.
Hey, Mel. Don't forget.
Oh, did you?
No, 2 meetings you got. Minutes on. We got the officers.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Take a lot of showers. Good. Every weekend.
Don't forget.
I'd like to call the February 11th, 2019 meeting of the Lawrenceburg Redevelopment Commission to order.
Messmore. Here. Cameron Davis.
Here.
Vice Chairman Randy Abner. Here. Secretary Dennis Hutchins.
Present.
Member Owen Cross.
Here.
Member Paul Seymour Sr.
President.
School Board Member Brian Johnson is absent.
City Attorney
Del Walton.
Here.
Has everyone had a chance to read the minutes from the previous meetings? There are 2 meetings that we have to approve. 2 or 1?
There's 2. You can combine it into one, though.
Yeah. Has everyone had a chance to read the, sir? Oh, they can't hear me? Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
What else is new?
I'd like to have a motion to approve the minutes of 2 previous meetings. Moved. Second. Moved and seconded. All in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Any announcements? Seeing none. Financial report.
As of February 4th, 2019, the balance for redevelopment is $2,817,316.62, and after monies committed to projects, it's $1,884,952.35.
Thank you. Any questions? Brian Messmore, good opening of 359 R Street.
Yes, as you.
Thank you.
Tonight we would be receiving any offers for the average of the 2 appraisals, of which we have not received any. So that gets us to the point in time where we now have a 30-day period where we do nothing, and beyond that point we can negotiate at arm's length with developers who are interested in building a residential structure here in downtown Lawrenceburg. I was also
Just from any of the builders above?
I will also add to that we have I've contacted all the local builders that have built here in the last 3 years. We will be accepting proposals through March and evaluate those, and schedule those award in April or May if we're not completely set on the crew. They understand that they will be evaluated based on square footage, fit and finish, cost of the home, the best should prevail, the most tax base kind of structure.
Yeah. Any questions for Mr. Messmore?
Yeah, just on the demolition on the one on the other side of the tracks. Are we going forward with, we purchased that one, did we not?
No, we are in the process. What we found is that it's still going for of legalities that are required before we can complete the transition. I have been in contact with the owner, and we're aware of what we're trying to accomplish, and everybody's still on board.
Just a question about how many people are involved in the trust?
I believe a total of 4.
Usually family members.
Yes.
Any further questions? Cheryl Boggs, The Sweet Escape. Backscape. Any further questions?
A proposal for the Union Hall. We've had several other discussions over the past probably 7. Just wanted to make sure everybody was clear on that before we started.
Yeah, the proposed location is 119 Short Street. And you guys have the business plan. Everybody has that. I don't think we need to review that. Our basic, we have some. So right now we currently own a sign company and an escape room in Greensburg, Indiana. We would like to bring that to the Dearborn County area. So we've got a proposal. It would be 3-phase. What we would be looking for is the 119 location, just a white. So we'd be looking to lease it, but we would just need it in a white box condition to start with. So nothing we wouldn't have to do for anybody else that was in the building. We would be responsible for everything beyond that. So the first phase would just need it in a white box condition to start with. So nothing to do for anybody else that in the building would be responsible for everything beyond that. Hot dogs, popcorn. So on this side, this is our proposed. It kind of depends on how the building comes out, but this is what we're thinking. So on this side of the building would be 2 adult escape rooms. With that little room in the middle, we would use that. And then on this side would be junior escape room with a little area in the back where kids can have parties. We have a lot of requests in the escape room. Currently, we do not have a junior. So, and the party area. So that would be a proposed for phase 1. So we can go ahead and get this going. Phase 2 would be the second floor that we actually. This is fencing, love on the side. You're familiar with how this works, but then there's tables and benches and stuff seating in the back area. Our area for whoever's receiving the people over here. And then this is the patio area, which is the third. something, so enough that people don't. And then we would have outdoor areas set up, for people to sit and watch what's going on. Does anybody have any questions?
That would be on top, the patio would be on top of the building that's built out.
Correct.
To the left of the
Yes,
front,
exactly,
the front
yeah.
door.
So that little area that would step out from the top floor.
And that's the top of it. How long have you been in business?
We have had this sign exchange for a year. And we just opened the escape room.
Do you have any experience in the axe throwing business at all?
We do not have experience in business, but we have done axe throwing. We actually have some credit at axe throwing.
I would recommend that you turn those around and put them on this wall here so people in the audience can see them, if you don't mind.
And we also have, so this is our current, like logo, current escape room we have right now. So, kind of our website. Look. These are some people that have been through, so we have cameras inside, obviously, that we can take pictures or record people, and then you had the two-way communication. And we're watching them the whole time. This is just us doing some recon work on the axe. Quite a few places doing recon. We've actually went out of the state because we didn't want kind of like we didn't want to be asking. We went to Tennessee. Kind of a setup of how the axe throwing would be. Very safe. There's lanes. It's kind of like bowling in the way that when you go up to throw your axe, you wait till the person hovers up there first, and goes first, and then you wait, and then both people go, and then you both go up and get your axe and come back. So it's very.
Is supervised?
What kind of hours would you operate?
It should be in So it would be primarily evenings and weekends. We would probably be open on Tuesday for the axe throwing for a league, or possibly 2 leagues if there's enough interest. We would also open probably on Fridays during the day for people that want to come in to do team building with their companies, because we get some of that too. The team with the axe, or especially with the escape room for the team building. Trying to see if maybe I didn't add it. I thought I had it in there, but that was probably in the initial proposal that we took to.
Well, I went on your site and checked, and your hours over there are kind of weekdays too, right?
Because we are
here you're talking weekends.
Yeah, weekends and probably later in the day, so maybe 4. So over there, we're actually in the sign shop. The escape room is actually in the same building, so it's easy to go back and forth with that. And we would have someone else running that. We have another employee that would be running that while we come over here.
You're asking this board, you haven't mentioned any dollars and cents yet, but you're asking the board to make ready the building?
Exactly.
And
just white box.
Are we talking leasing?
Yes, the initial proposal at this point, this stage of the game, is a lease. What the board should, I would recommend take under advisement this evening is the concept. It's a relatively new concept. It appears to be gathering a lot of momentum in surrounding communities and entertainment. As an entertainment venue, it's something different than we've discussed as a board to this point. So, and there's a lot of exciting things going on, and this certainly is a neat opportunity to bring some diversity to the park area, and a different kind of activity than we have anywhere close by. So,
have we given it any thought as to what the cost would be?
No, what we would have to do, again, if we were to take a step, we would have to, get a design professional to estimate the white box, and then, decide from there. I mean, I don't think we're in a position to say go. Again, tonight, if this is the only concept that we have in front of us, and it's a concept you choose to explore, then we would explore it to the next level of detail, as we have on the other locations. Primarily up to this point, we've discussed eating in family establishments. This is a little different, so I thought it was a good idea. Like I said, there's a lot of good stuff going on. So,
Brian's explained our end of it. Do you have the financial wherewithal to put your end of it together?
Yes.
All of the rooms that you showed in the...
Yes, a lot of the stuff that we do, the one that we have now, we completely 100% did ourselves. And because we have the sign equipment, we use that to help with making and building the rooms.
And you do have a business plan put together?
Yes, with all the financials and everything.
Any other questions?
We've been working with the Small Business Administration.
Pardon me?
We've been working closely with the Small Business Administration.
Okay.
Here in Lawrenceburg.
Yes.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Balls.
Yes.
Any other questions? Thank you. Okay.
Thanks for coming.
Oh, thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
Low Miller Enterprises, LLC, Nugent Tractor proposal.
Good evening, gentlemen. I have color copies of the proposal in front of you if anybody would like one.
I guess I took mine apart.
They're free.
Thank you.
We'll share it, Owen. We'll share it.
Thanks for having me tonight. My name is Andy Low Miller. I'm the CEO of Low Miller Enterprises and the broker for Low Miller Real Estate. As many of you know, we've been looking at some expansion for our company for some time now, and we've been doing some planning on, what that might look like, what the location would be. We're trying to stay here in Lawrenceburg, as much as possible. So we found what we think is a great opportunity for us in the old Nugent Tractor building. We have got the property under contract. We are under contract for a good amount of time, appropriate due diligence and whatnot in order to close and, take the consideration of this body. So with that, I'll go ahead and start my presentation here. So just an upfront summary. The Nugent Tractor building will allow us to expand our current business, create 2 additional divisions within our business. It'll revitalize and put structure that is really falling apart right now, and we're projecting 15 jobs in the next 5 years, 6 on day 1, and up to 37 in the next 10 years. So tonight we're going to talk about a little bit of the background for our company, exactly what our expansion plans look like. We're going to talk about some skilled labor shortages that we're experiencing here in the community and how we plan to address those, the capabilities of the building, what our acquisition and renovation needs look like, and then, what we're asking of this body. So, background. Lawrenceburg Enterprises is an Indiana limited liability company. We're registered in Ohio and Kentucky as well. We service the entire tri-state. Lawrenceburg Enterprises is the owner of Lawrenceburg Real Estate and Lawrenceburg Contracting, as well as the starting body for the Lawrenceburg Foundation, which is a 501c3. All three organizations focus on housing and living environments here in the tri-state, based out of Lawrenceburg. Me personally, my experience in the industry, I've been in real estate since 2004, starting at Coldwell Banker. We incorporated in 2007, based in Western Hills. And then in 2011 was when we moved downtown to Lawrenceburg, when we purchased Help You Sell River Valley, which was going out of business. So we've been in Lawrenceburg since 2011. We added our second location in 2013, which was in Florence, Kentucky. We added our third location in 2015, which is over in Hyde Park on the east side of Cincinnati. And then we added our fourth location in Batesville, Indiana in 2016 with the acquisition of Countryside Realty. This year, we've always worked closely with companies into one, and also absorbed an additional contracting company called Open Door Homes. As of today, our total employment of our company is 81 people. That's 19 W-2 and 62 1099. Here in Lawrenceburg, we employ 27 people, not counting anybody in contracting because they don't really have a home. So we have 19 W-2 in Lawrenceburg since June of 2011. To illustrate some of those jobs, I did have a few people come here tonight. So Sue, if you could raise your hand. Sue is a 20-plus year real estate administrator. She's worked for RE/MAX in Milford, Ohio. That's a job that we've brought to Lawrenceburg. Anna's a graduate of University of Cincinnati in the design and marketing. Anna mentioned to me that when she got her degree, she never expected to be able to work in Dearborn County with that degree. She had a job over in Blue Ash, and we were able to pull her back into Lawrenceburg. And Robin worked for Stewart Title for years over in Boone County, Kentucky. Another job we were able to pull back into Lawrenceburg. Katie Ziner worked in Rising Sun. Billy Rumsey here worked in Indianapolis, and there's several more. That's just a cross-section to show you that we have a history of job creation here in Lawrenceburg and pulling jobs back to the city. Next. And there's just several more. That's just a cross-section to show you that we have a history of job creation here in Lawrenceburg and pulling jobs back to the city. Next. Real estate company in Southeast Indiana by every measure. And then another thing that I'm really proud of is in the entire Cincinnati tri-state, the Cincinnati Business Couriers ranked us the number 12 company in the tri-state. I can't tell you how many brokerages there are in Cincinnati, but somewhere between 700 and 800. So, one of the top 15 companies in the entire tri-state is headquartered here in Lawrenceburg. On top of that, through our Q3, we've donated over $20,000 back to charity for housing and living environment related initiatives here at home and abroad.
Andy, can you stop for a second?
Yes, sir.
Backing up to the 76 completed projects, are those repairs to houses you were selling, or?
But that and others. We get, our contracting company will get jobs in of its own accord, and it gets jobs driven through the real estate brokerage as well.
Good, thanks.
Yep. So, for our expansion plans, we look to grow our efforts throughout the Cincinnati MSA. With a certain amount of expansion that we're looking for in this MSA by 2030, and by 2030 we're hoping to look for regional expansion. All our plan to get us to 2030 has 37 W-2 jobs, and 220 1099 jobs added to the company. Now, not all those are in Lawrenceburg. They're throughout our entire footprint. But many of the support, administrative, marketing, and whatnot positions will be at our headquarters location. This fruition by year 2030.
23.
2030, yeah. That So, in the short term, we have 6 people who work in low-mower contracting who really don't have a home. Several of them are on paper. For years. This Nugent building will give us the ability to actually give those people a home, so they'll have a facility to work out of, but also on paper, it allows us to bring their tax revenue to Lawrenceburg. All right? So there are 6 jobs that happen on day 1 that already exist. We're administrative hiring. In the next 36 months, we're looking at adding 16 quality jobs. Could it end up being 13 or 14? Sure. Could it end up being 46, 48, 60 months? Sure. But this is our plan right now. That's what we're looking at doing. So, getting the skilled labor. There's a lot of people. Proposals, and you're looking at cost of build out, adding new infrastructure to the city, et cetera, et cetera. The skilled labor shortage for the building trades is terrible right now. One of the things that this building is going to allow us to do is put in place a training facility inside of it. It's not going to be anything big or fancy, but a nice little 3-room mock house inside of the old Nugent service station where we can bring guys in and say, okay, put a roof on, rip it off, put it on again, rip it off. You forgot the drip edge, hang a gutter, lay some tile, and we can do it in a controlled facility where we can help, at least through our own accord, with our own people, try to advance that skilled labor shortage. Additionally, and I don't know, I have absolutely no idea what the likelihood or probability of this is, but I would like to talk to Ivy Tech, Lawrenceburg High School, Indiana Workforce Development, whatever, to see what we could do to increase that program. There's no vocational options around right now for a guy who just wants to hang drywall or put on shingles. And unfortunately, the only place that they can learn is on your properties. So that's something that we would like to do as well. We'll have 3,800 square feet of that allocated for our sales office, another 3,800 square feet allocated for our administrative, marketing, and financial staff, 1,400 square feet allocated for a title and insurance company that we're looking to create because there's a need in the market. We have standalone building that has current tenants. We don't plan to displace any of them. As long as they want to stay, we're happy to keep them. Going to the next page, we'll talk about building costs. So I'll run through. Exterior costs come out to about $187. First floor interior goes to $152,500. Second floor interior subtotal goes to $57,000. We have $27,000 in soft costs for holding, and then $17,500 building that training house. So the total cost of this project for this expansion is $1,123,900. And honestly, those are probably conservative numbers because we're able to do a lot of that work in house. So, but quick upfront summary, we have about $4 million in revenue annually. About $2.8 million of that goes to cost of sales and agent commissions. $1.2 million is effective gross income, with another $1 million in operating expenses. So our corporate earnings before interest, taxes, and depreciation is about which means that, long story short, we have the full capability to do this project. We have the full capability to add these jobs. We don't have the capability to do both. That's really what it comes down to.
From a financial standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ryan Grubbs from U.S. Bank is here tonight. He's our business banker, and he can answer any questions you guys might have about our funding and financials as well. So we've been talking to U.S. Bank. We bank with them for years. We're looking at an SBA product to be able to pull this off. We've already filed the initial application and all that kind of stuff. Ryan can talk more about that if you have questions for him. We don't expect it to be a problem. It's not going to be a problem at all. However, if we go do this and then we expend all of our resources, then we have a big empty building that we can't put these extra jobs in. So, long story short, what I'm asking of this committee is a 10% contribution to the overall project. So I'm asking you guys tonight for $112,390. I would like to see 50% of that in the form of down payment assistance. No money to Low Enterprises. It'll go to U.S. Bank or the SBA to help get the project off the ground. And then the other 50% after the Lawrenceburg Building Department issues us our certificate of occupancy, and we would take that as a cost recovery.
Can we stop you for a second?
Yes, sir.
Whether you're aware of it or not, redevelopment has tried to stay away from any upfront money during the current board and the current administration. And there's all kinds of reasons for that. Most of them are pretty obvious.
Sure.
You're asking for the 50. I understand the 50%. I understand why you're asking for that. But that's a problem for us. So if we were to say to you, and this is just my hypothetical question, not the board's. If we were to say to you, we understand that's a problem for you to get it done, and if we did that, would you be willing to sign a personal guarantee to Lawrenceburg to repay the money first? It's a personal guarantee. So it would be your existence comes back to us first.
Sure. I mean, so obviously, whatever the details of that look like, that makes sense to me. I didn't expect there to not be some kind of ability for the city to know that they made a decent investment.
If you're saying you can do this project, but you can't pull it off without help, which is what you're saying.
Yes, sir.
And you're asking for roughly $50,000 and change.
Yep.
Okay. I'm saying to you, as just a board member, that if we were to ask you, could you do that, can you do that?
Yeah, I would sign the guarantee.
Personal guarantee.
Sure.
Thank you. And the back half is after you get the certificate of occupancy.
Yes. So, it has a parking lot that is chopped up in pieces. The likelihood that somebody's going to come along and invest the kind of money that it needs and be able to utilize that space in the short term is probably as likely as it's been sitting there vacant this long, right? So this plan utilizes a local company that is from Lawrenceburg. We're going to invest over $1 million of our own money to revitalize that property, put it back into use. The expansion will add jobs on day one and thereafter from a company that has a history of job creation in the city. And that's basically that, I mean, I think from there I'll take any questions you guys have.
Questions from the board? Anybody?
Well, I still have one. Let's Paul does.
Are we going to vote on this tonight?
Wait, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
There's a little bitty elephant in the room. We had agreed to a deal with you on properties at the end of Walnut Street.
Yes, sir.
Affecting Mike Knoll's properties.
Yep.
And from memory, you were going to purchase one of his lots.
That's correct.
Did that happen, A? And we were holding one of our lots for you for a program that would accommodate.
So, I want to be careful how I answer the question.
Okay.
because I haven't, me and Mike haven't talked to each other for me to answer this question.
Tell us what you can tell us.
But we've continued to move forward on that. I have not purchased the property yet. Our contract is still in place, although it is expired.
But we still own our property.
You do. You do. Long story short, at this time, the vacancy rates in the market and the cost to construct have not proved to be a prudent decision to move forward.
It's expensive.
And yeah, once again, I don't want to speak for Mr. Knoll. We would need to talk, but I mean, I think we both still intend to move forward on that some way, somehow. Just thus far hasn't.
Not putting you in that door.
Not this time. Who knows what the future holds?
I'll speak if no one else. I like the project. I like the fact that they're fixing the old Nugent property.
Pretty favorable to me.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. If he was willing to sign a personal guarantee on the $50,000, I would make a motion that we go forward with this.
Proposing a motion?
I am indeed.
Okay.
What's your motion? What state motion?
If he would sign a personal guarantee on the upfront money,
Okay.
I would go forward with a motion that we go forward with this project with Andy.
We have a motion on before us to go forward with this proposal. If Mr. Lowe Miller signs a personal guarantee for half of the whatever it is.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Any opposed? We will leave it to you and our
Joe
attorney
Walden.
to draw up a contract.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just cover us 15 ways from Wednesday.
Got it.
Okay.
Thank you for your consideration.
Andy, when you get some kind of rendering that looks different than this, would you give us a copy?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Next, we have Mr. Olin Clausen to present a Union Hall proposal for the LMU.
Oh, this ought to be good.
Okay.
Good evening, guys. Owen Clausen, Lawrenceburg Municipal Utilities. I handed out to you guys and placed in front of you conceptual plans for the Carpenters Union Building located on Short Street. A couple things that I want to point out about the conceptual drawings are, number one, if you look at them, the number of staircases and the elevator, those things that are on the drawings, are what's required as minimums by Indiana Building Code to make use of the building for public. The other thing, I think probably the most important thing, at least to me, is that the Union Carpenter building is a historic building, probably one of the most unique in the downtown Lawrenceburg area. And so this effort is that we keep that building as true to its original character as we can, which means extensive rehab in both the first and second floor, and developing and bringing back into that space period accurate lighting, flooring, etc., to really present that building as being the historic gem that it is for Lawrenceburg. The third thing is that our proposal would pay the Redevelopment Commission the highest of the appraised prices that you have for the building. So whatever the appraised value is, we would pay fair market price for the building. We also take into account that the building would take around $300 a square foot to rehab, which is, in round numbers, about $700,000, of which we have budgeted. Lawrenceburg Municipal Utilities has been in business since 1901 in the city of Lawrenceburg. We have a pretty extensive and stellar track record. We provide critical services to the community. We have approximately 16,000 bills that we send out each month, which result in about 4,000 interactions in the office per month. So we have approximately 4,000 people coming through the doors of our utility building, this building, to interact with us and do business with us on a regular basis. So in every sense of the word, we are an anchor tenant, an anchor business for the downtown area. A lot of you recall when the post office left the downtown, I wasn't here, but when the post office left the downtown area, with it went a lot of traffic from the people who came down here to do that business with the post office. We think we're a critical part of the downtown area, and we think that just like we've got a room here tonight where however many people are convened to do other things besides utility business, we think that we can create a similar space within this building that after 5:30 every day, that space can be utilized by individuals for entertainment, for receptions, for parties, for corporate parties, etc. We also, through the architect, Ron Novak, have become aware that there are groups of what I would call traveling chefs. So there are these celebrity chefs that come to Cincinnati and they cook on different weekends at different places throughout the city. That we could also kind of get involved in that. And what it means to the utility is that the utility has a certain cost of doing business. And if every day at 5:30 we were to stop that book of business and allow that space to be utilized for entertainment purposes, including these celebrity chefs or whatever you want to call them, we would in essence be maximizing the square footage that we would have. And because we're not dependent upon the revenues from that type of a business, our ability to be very competitive for receptions, for parties, for things of that nature would be different than other models. Meaning, if I make anything over zero, it's a revenue positive direction. What we're proposing is that we reuse the Carpenter's building so that when you come through the front doors, you'll be looking at a counter where the cashier sits. That space will be behind what we're proposing to be the brass bars like you'd see at the old train stations, these kinds of things, that would keep those private areas private even after we close down. If you'll notice on the drawing, there's a set of stairs that go up to the second floor. The second floor would be an area that also be used for entertainment. There's a set of bathrooms too, both male and female bathrooms on that second floor. With the outside area, which is approximately 600 square foot, which is the additional piece to that old building that sits to the south, being an open air outdoor patio used for entertainment. As you go to the third floor, we're proposing that 2/3 of that top floor be enclosed in glass. And that 1/3 of that top floor, the park side of that, be open air for open air seating. We have an elevator that is included in our cost, our estimate of if you get down to the number, $684,000. But an elevator that makes access for all 3 floors of that building.
Is that in the back?
It is in the back. According to this drawing, it is in the back. So that the people using that would have ADA access to all 3 floors. And again, our concept is that every day at 5:30, as many people who would like to lease the building space, and we're thinking for somewhere around $1,000. That would just cover the cost of the janitorial systems and getting the place ready for business the next day, that we could provide an absolute first-class experience on the park, combined with a business that's been here since 1901, maximizing that space.
So are you saying that you're talking about weddings,
receptions, business parties, receptions, anything of that nature.
And where are they going to cook this at?
There's a fully appointed kitchen in the layout and the cost estimates of this building.
Understand. Okay.
Would this be new employees at all?
No, there wouldn't be any new employees, Mr. Seymour.
What happens if you get you get the building. You buy the building.
Okay.
You work the building for 5 or 6 years, and for some reason you lose it. You ready for that question you know the answer to?
Define lose it.
Am I going to see old telephone poles, old transformer, and what have you?
That's an excellent question.
Yes, it is.
We currently own 11 acres of ground outside the levee where we store those kinds of materials. We also have the property on Tate Street where we store transformers and those kinds of things. This would be very much a consumer-faced business. Keep in mind that we start a fiber optics network, a fiber optics business, which is a retail business, which needs to be open at various times and be competitive, just like you see the Verizon store, the Sprint store, AT&T. That business. It's no longer. You have to buy electricity from me because I'm the only game in town. People can get internet services from anybody that they want, any of the people in town. And so we have had to.
You're talking about modems and all kinds.
Modems. If we get down the road and we start to provide voice services, cell phones, those kinds of things. So we are in a sense a retail business, a competitive retail business. We see the advantages being, number one, we're going to pay you fair market price for the building and never come back to you for a single dime for anything to do with the building, period.
Oh, and I have a question for you. You threw us a curveball with the second end of this evening, the other time of the day that it's going to be a predictive building. Do you have any type of marketing plan, any idea of how to implement that?
No, right now what we can guarantee is that the building being brought back to a state that is historically correct. Different than other companies would be willing to invest in that building. We have a different ability to invest in a building. We've been here since 1901. We're not going anywhere. Meaning we will invest in that building in a way that will keep that building here for another 100 years and really make that building a jewel of the downtown area. Properly highlight that building.
That's not where I was going.
I understand what you're saying. So we can guarantee this. We can guarantee that we bring the building back to being period accurate, that we make it a centerpiece of the community. And we believe, based on the discussions we've had with the event center and just the prospects, even things that you don't all know, basically what the interest in the park's going to be and the kinds of venues that will be there. We think that if we provide that kind of a space for people to come in at a very low cost, have parties, have receptions, have weddings, receptions, those kinds of things, we're anticipating we can provide that kind of space for them at a more than reasonable price. A price that other competitive businesses simply couldn't afford because our revenues are not dependent upon that.
And they're right on the park.
It's right on the park. If we do no business, we're okay. We don't do any business after 5:30 here. Anything I make over zero is cash positive.
Well,
so we can provide that space for any number of venues for a very reasonable price.
Are you willing to use your internal sales pieces, your monthly newsletters and different things, and think about getting creative there?
Oh, in terms of advertising?
Advertise this.
Yeah, and that's the other thing.
Because you send out to a lot of people, I mean.
We have a unique ability to be able to touch every customer in town once a month, to market ourselves, to talk about the things that we can and can't do every single month. And that doesn't take into account just our presence in terms of social media, in terms of our employees, and just the fact that, look, we've got a park over there I believe is going to be a huge success. I'd like to help capitalize on that by keeping the momentum going, by getting approval to purchase that building at a market fair price, and develop that building into really a centerpiece of that park area. And keeping in mind, we're the furthest north west corner of that property. We're not really centric to the park itself. We're on the park, but there's a lot of square footage on the park that is empty space right now, that I don't see people knocking the doors down, asking you to develop or to build on or to do things with. And so I think that added momentum that we would bring to the table, number one, is I don't see anybody matching that in terms of what we can do and our cash ability to provide that. And I think that we actually raise the value and raise the interest for other people to come into those other spaces and promote additional businesses. Keeping in mind, like I said, we have roughly 4,000 interactions with customers per month in this building. You know, a lot of those customers I witness leave here and walk across the street to the Brickyard or do other business when they're in downtown.
Oh, and I have a question.
Sure.
Assuming that this happens, how would you provide security for your office space and your working areas during events?
Great question. Everything that, just like here, there are areas that when you come through the front door that you can access, that you can gain access to, and there's areas that you can't without proper authority. The building would be no different. There would be areas that if you came into it, you could get into one space or the other, use the restrooms, get on the elevator, go to
cameras and everything throughout
Oh,
the
yeah,
building.
absolutely. But to get into spaces that you shouldn't be into, say for example where our safe is, my office, things like that, there would be no access to the general public to those areas. Now, we run the risk, like in the building, of breaking into those, but they can be the very the very slim. But
Talk about the glass
sidewalls. So the entire rooftop area would be enclosed in glass.
So for distance.
Except for the deck area, you said.
Except for the one-third deck area
Right.
that overlooks the park. What that allows you to do is to, really at any time, even during regular business hours, that rooftop area would be open for people to use as reception or for other purposes.
How does weather affect it?
It's enclosed, it's air conditioned and heated.
Oh, so it has a top.
Absolutely has a top. So it's fully enclosed, glass
On a
walls.
cruise ship here, if you know what I'm saying. Yeah, okay.
The one-third area that would not be enclosed would be open air.
Whatever the
Temperatures are, they will. What that would allow year-round usage of the same would be true for the lower area, that outside area, that decking. There would be some glass partitions along that side.
We didn't get too far off that because we don't
know what the intent is for the adjacent property. If they build something that's equally as tall, there's no point in us spending a bunch of money or doing things conceptually to glass a wall in that's going to have a brick building there.
Got any intentions of what we're going to do with this building if we do this?
Excuse me?
What are we going to do with this building if we do that?
This building here?
Yeah.
I'm open to suggestions. Okay. I'll leave that up to you.
Just a thought. Just a thought. Got a lot of room here too.
Well, you know, we have some room here. We're currently, Mel could tell you, and Tony Abbott was here tonight, he could tell you, we have people that are currently in those two offices, those two small offices, because we're really out of room. The other side of that is, you know, we have had a few estimates done to turn this foyer into an area that's enclosed, that's protected, because right now it's not. I mean, let's be honest, you could climb over the counter and rifle through the drawers right now if you wanted to. That cost, it's not cheap. You know, it's $100,000 to $150,000 depending on how we approach that. And so, looking at the needs that we have as a utility, and keeping in mind also that we have worked for 4 years now to put enough money aside that we can do this and not be a burden on the city or the NDF or the ratepayers at all. This would not result in any increase in rates whatsoever. I think that we can be one of the straightest arrows in the quiver for the city in terms of redevelopment.
In all fairness to you and to the other presenters tonight, my partner next door here is going to make a motion in a little while to have a second meeting this month. And in fairness to them and to your projects, I think we need some time to evaluate this and Chairman, is that appropriate?
I'll accept a motion, sure.
I'd make a motion, we put it off till our next meeting.
Have a motion to put these two things, these two proposals on hold until the next meeting. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank both of you for your presentations.
Oh, and it's pretty cool. It is.
I would like to ask the indulgence of the audience and the board to take a 6-minute recess.
Are we stretching our legs or are we going somewhere?
It's up to you. Thank you.
Answer, maybe.
I thought I'd ask you that. This building. Yes, sir.
Well, I thought that they agreed to approve the whole lot. But we should probably clear that up. If it sounded like. Yeah. I thought it was the.
He's got that in the electric fund.
What did you hear?
Tells us if he moved that over to the other fund. But I have a question about that.
Yeah. No, we should clear that up.
I think.
Okay. No.
He wants to build another building somewhere. We have some property around there that we can't sell.
We'll do it. We'll go through it tonight. Yeah, let me I'll ask Dennis and your dad.
That's my thoughts.
Okay. Thank you, Paul.
You know what I mean? I know that. I
had my own number before I came here. I didn't want to give it up. So what do I have? You got my personal number.
Good.
Because I'm a Texas.
I think you could bank all over there, period. You know what I mean? No. You're absolutely right. You can't. Exactly right. You can't let it fall. Yeah, you're right. You can't let it fall. You're right. No, you're right. I've been thinking about it. We talked about it last meeting. You remember that? He brought it up to me. And,
many years ago.
Yeah, well, Brian said, we got other property. I can't remember how she got mine. Good and bad and all of it. It's showing some of the bad stuff, the reason why. And that's the reason I waited until I brought up, we're going to do this building. Could we expand this building? Would it be cheaper to expand this building than to do that? You know what I mean? Yeah. I like that. I like how they have a furniture warehouse or weather. I think it would be neat. That was me out there. I just kind of thought I needed that. I was very impressed on their And he's creating another company. He's going in there. Insurance, yeah. What do you think of that, Mel?
What's that?
Hey, Andy.
Presentation.
You are an old man.
It's great. You know, AJ's got a fantastic photography business in town. And I told him, I said, I want you to see their structure.
Or be a plumber.
Important photography is.
Or be a plumber. Yeah.
That's the guy we probably should have.
I can't get one because it's got financials on it.
I got one. People around that park.
And if Andy does something,
Does he sound like he's got connections all over the place?
he does headshots all everywhere. First class.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, but I did it because when I got her.
Don't you feel good about what we
If I stop tomorrow, person. Okay. I stop tomorrow, right? So you have packets for the entertainment center. Kind of got you with
Oh, it was. But no, I said, wasn't that good?
I didn't do that when I came in. They tried to take
I'd like to call the meeting back to order.
It's out of hand. I think so. There you go. There you go. Andy. Just set them up for one.
Yeah, I kind of wanted it. So.
Call the meeting back to order. Thank you all for your indulgence. Mike Knoll, redevelopment of an existing property.
Mr. Chairman, may I, before we get started with Mr. Knoll, I just wanted to double check and clarify that the vote in regard to the Low Miller proposal is to approve the entire amount with the first half tied to a personal guarantee. Is that correct, Mr. Hutchins?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Knoll?
I think he might still be on break.
He's on his
He's in
6-minute
the,
break still.
Powder room.
We're waiting on you, Mike.
Mr. Knoll?
Grand entrance.
Good evening.
Hi,
Mike Knoll, here to property that I have at 150 Industrial Drive, currently the Athletic Club building. Just a little bit of history on that. We built that building in 1995 and have been in business there with the Athletic Club since then. Actually, we purchased that property from Lawrenceburg, and that was when Roland Horney was city manager at the time, and developed that property and have been there since then. As everybody's well aware, you know, in the last 20 plus years, how much the fitness business and everything has changed, with the addition of a lot of other facilities, you know, in the area, and which, you know, has taken, you know, it's kind of toll on our business. You know, you still have those same, if you've got 2 places or 20, you know, facilities to work out, you still basically have that same group of people that you're sharing with. So what I'm giving you is kind of a proposal that I'm looking at. I've worked with an architect to draw up this proposal. And what it is in this business is to kind of assist with the business that I have there so that we don't lose the people that, you know, I've brought in and they're employed. And now I want to keep those people working But with the number of people that are attending, I need to reach out and try to find other ways to compensate for the use of that building. So I'm looking at different ways of doing that, and this is one of those proposals that I've looked at real hard. Been looking at it for a while. And it's as you can see, if anybody having questions or looking at that drawing, I don't know if you had an opportunity to look at that and see what I'm trying to do. And with that, not only keeping those existing employees that I have, but hoping to add a few more that will help me with other business as well, going forward. Any questions on the floor on anything pertaining to that building or business?
Is this all workout area, Mike, or?
Currently, the whole building, is used for that.
In your proposal.
Please?
This proposal, is this all workout area, or?
On that proposal, half of it will be utilized for the workout facility. Doing that, we also are looking at expanding some hours, so that's going to be part of our changing to keep up with, everybody else and what all the other businesses are doing in this field. I think Dennis is probably aware, when you part of the curves, how tough a business it is, and how many people keep that vibrant and keep everybody coming. With all the changes, I'm trying to make changes to my facility so that it becomes viable again, and keeping my employees, and also adding, hopefully, to assist in this other business that we're going to do in that same building.
Any questions from the board, comments?
You're going half of the building would be retail space then?
Part of it, would be retail space. Some of it,
you won't discontinue your exercise facility?
At this point, we're not trying to do that. We're trying to downsize it so that we can keep enough customers. Okay, with all the competition that's around us, keep enough customers that we can keep it going and viable, and expand some hours so that we can keep up with some of the other competition as well.
What kind of retail are you proposing, Mike?
Well, mainly it would be small office space. Currently have some other buildings in town, and we do get a lot of calls for people that want to use, they just have one person in their office, or they want something in Indiana, they need an office, but they only need 500 or 600 square feet. They have a secretary there, or they can have meetings in this area that they need to do. So just got a call from the state highway the other day where they're looking for an area where they're going to be doing all the paving, and so they're looking for a small office space that they're going to use for 9 months. So we're trying from a little bit different of a market in that respect. Mainly, I'm just trying to, I guess, fill the gap that's been created in my business, and not end up with a building sitting there that's vacant. I can't do it financially, so I'm reaching out to see, if there's any assistance for me to be able to do the changes to this facility, to make it viable again.
Do you have an
Get what I've already been spending here in the last 60 days. You know, that number is 213,000 for me to do a transition in half of my building to make, and if you look at all the details and all the different spaces, you'll understand why the major change and the cost of what that would be. Not only, you know, do you have the structure itself inside that, but you've got all the heating and air, you've got all the electrical that you need to redo to structure everything that would be needed in that space. And I, you know, kind of to close the gap because of my financial situation and being able to pay for is about 35% of that. I've got the other part that I can get covered, but that's where my shortfall comes. And being able to, you know, make this, you know, viable again, this building and property.
You're looking at 35% of the 213,000.
Right.
You got it figured out yet?
It's about 75,000. Yeah.
71.7. I knew you were doing that.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead. Yes.
I just, I told Mike that, you know, we didn't have any programs that kind of addressed his specific need. I wasn't sure exactly what the need was. I just think, you know, we don't want it to be difficult for anybody, but we need to understand the inverse of the decision we make here and what other implications this would have on us as a board with other businesses up and down US 50 and beyond. So ultimately, it's your call, but it's also, I think, part of my job to caution us on slippery slopes.
Any other comments from the board?
Pat Kreider can you come up to the podium for a second?
Is there anybody else in here that name?
Oh, I heard that. I get it. No, Pat, I was just going to ask you he's looking for tenants.
Yes.
Does Main Street get this type of interest? I don't put you on the spot, but it's just, do you get this kind of interest from tenants that would want to be in there? Office space, rental space, retail?
We get a lot of more we get some office space. Truthfully, we've just recently been discussing with someone downtown about the possibility of creating a co-working space in a building down here.
Shared.
Right. One of the things we thought about doing, and I'm going to be discussing this with my Economic Vitality Committee on Friday, one of the things we're talking about doing is actually putting out a survey to see how many people there are out there that are looking for these opportunities. We want to assess the needs before we go down that path. We're also going to, maybe in this, exactly how we're going to position this, but we're going to try to get out to the public and assess the needs for these type of co-working spaces, and also for very small retail locations, maybe putting a number of merchants in one building, like a small mercantile. So we're in the process of trying to gauge what that need really is. We get people, whether, you know, depending on the kind of office space they want, it's hard to say that we've got you know, that I get that many at this point, but we are going to proactively try to find out what's out there so that way we're all aware of what needs are actually there. Is that helpful, Dennis?
Yeah, I was also thinking about Terry Randall's group. If they get any interest at Ivy Tech there, it could help Mike out down there.
They might. I think probably the type of small offices that we would get an interest in downtown might be different than the ones like you're talking about, the highway department. I think that might be a different, a different clientele, different.
They don't need. No, I glued that together already, but I just thought I'd put it out there.
Yeah. I think more and more people, I think co-working spaces have some value, but I think, you know, as I said, we don't want to get into promoting it until we make sure there's a need for it. If that's helpful for you. Hopefully we may be able to do that within the next few months.
You know, Mike, there's all those businesses behind you there, but they're a whole different kind of business. You know, back behind you with the bays and all that stuff, but that's a whole different animal back there.
You're talking beyond there, industrial.
I mean, it's got to be 50 to 100 back there, but
there's a lot of different small,
it's a different animal.
Small business type, you know, warehouse type businesses, I would say. Most of those.
A lot of mom and pops too.
Right. You know, and I guess I just want to emphasize too, you know, that this is not something that I plan to be doing. It's just the nature of what's going on in the business, and you know, now that I've got two competitors less than a mile away, it really doesn't help, you know. And I'm just asking for your thoughts and how you may be able to assist in any way that I can make it a viable building again with the business that I'm trying to conduct there. Any other questions?
Questions or comments?
I've got one for our leader over here. Have we got a special meeting set up?
Coming up. No, but I am going to request one.
Good man.
In short order, hopefully within the next 10 working days would be my goal.
What would you call that meeting?
I would call it a executive session to be followed by a open meeting work session.
Can we ask for a postpone on Mike and talk this over at the work session? Am I allowed to do that?
Yes, sir.
I'll make that a motion. Mike, would that satisfy you right now?
Yeah, I'm looking for any assistance that I can get to make it a viable.
Yeah, they were all awful quiet sitting up here, and maybe at a work session they'll open up and let it out.
Right.
We have a motion.
Any consideration, obviously, you can give me, that would be appreciated. Appreciate your time. And anybody that needs to reach out to me individually, you know, you can get in touch with me. I'll be glad to answer any questions that I can do for you. I appreciate it.
We have a motion and a second to discuss this further at either executive session or a work session. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Old business, Brian Messmore.
May I take the podium on this one?
Sure. You're allowed.
And I should state for the record that I do go to.
Does he pay his dues?
It don't look like it.
Mike, does he pay his dues?
Levity.
Well, when you open
Thank
up
you.
the barn door, I'm going to drive
What are
in.
you laughing at? You know, if I may just take a step back, you know. And we are redevelopment. We have a lot of things come our way, and 99.9, maybe minus the Union Hall, cost us money. And it's you know, trying to protect the money and do the right things with the money. And different things come up that fall a little bit out of the scope of focus we've been working on recently, and it's like I said, there's a lot of opportunity, and there's a lot of opinions on how these different opportunities should be funded or not. I think for the most part, we wrestle with them very diligently and make the best decision we can based on the information we have, and ultimately we've always tried to protect the city, and I appreciate that. So with that being said, as far as old business, we have to talk about the row house and the firehouse. I was just going to provide a brief overview of where we're at on both of those, and I would first start out by saying we are making progress in the direction that we've established. I think we are making good, solid progress.
Which one are we talking about?
We're going to talk about the row house first. I'm saying combined in both of those properties, we are making progress. The row house, and Mr. Stroud is here, continues to work on his estimates for build out. He has established a relationship with a restaurant manager to the contractual level at this point, but all those things that are consistent with the direction that we've established. We'll also talk to Mr. Stroud and RC Engineering. They are the ones that engineered the brick rehab and fix as in place. That estimate came back at over $285,000. Consequently, we have asked them, not engaged them, but asked them to talk to Mr. Stroud and review the conceptual ideas about reframing the end of that building, which would include restoration on the inside wall, shoring up with whatever I-beams and or beams that would hold the floors in place, which would allow the interior bricks that are exposed to weather be removed, and then consequently that would be framed in and finished with windows and bricks.
Has he done that?
No, I did not proceed on that because I didn't feel like I had the direction to choose an alternative, or I didn't want to without consent from the board. So that's where we're at there. With the firehouse, we are continuing to negotiate. They continue to work with their restaurant manager. But what I would recommend today, because of the level of detail we're getting into in terms of that we would table these items and schedule an executive session, because it is my belief that we're getting into contract details that need to be discussed in an executive way, an executive manner.
The chair agrees. I need to do this in executive session.
That's why I had suggested when you asked me what kind of meeting that we would start with an executive, because
well, in all frankness, he had a heads up from somebody at the end of the
no. Okay. So that's my update, and I think I covered it fairly well. Again, I'm encouraged, and you should be encouraged that we are making progress. Two really nice opportunities for us, but we're getting into that level of contractual discussion that we wouldn't.
When would that meeting take place?
As soon as we can coordinate schedules and get the required participants there.
Okay. Put them both in the same meeting, you're saying?
Yes. Because yes, we're a little farther ahead in one than the other, but just to protect ourselves and not get too far down with concepts and possibilities that would, get us into some sort of verbal commitment in a public meeting that we're not ready for at this point. There's some significant details that.
So are you saying that we can't invite Mr. Stroud up to give us an update on where he is?
I'm not saying that. I asked him to come just in case, but I just want to make sure that we're aware that getting
Got it.
too far down that path about negotiations could get us into.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And thanks for the update.
A little early, yeah.
Assuming that utilities would be one of these entities that would be negotiating or talking about things behind closed doors, I just need to confirm with our attorney that we can in fact discuss this in executive session. I don't know if it rises to that level, but I just don't want to do something that is contrary to state IC code over that. So
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman. The Union Hall in an executive session. This is just primarily because of where we're at in relationship to the contract negotiations with Rezos and how that will affect our continued negotiation, perhaps, with Mr. Stroud.
Sure.
I like it. Yeah, I agree. The money's good.
He said he would buy it from us.
Yeah, first, wouldn't it?
He said he would buy it from us. Didn't we pay $1 million for that?
Yeah, it's an expensive piece of property. I'm gonna set the dollar sign.
Ron Sweeney,
That'll be tabled, please.
pardon me?
Table.
Okay. Hickory House Barbecue business update.
Name's Kevin Anderson. My partner Susie Randall. We're owners of Hickory House Barbecue. Last month we come before the board, asked for an extension on our agreement for the payback. We've contacted three other businesses in downtown to see if they would be willing to partner up, let us come in to cook in their facility. We have failed to get any cooperation of anybody wanting us to come in to partner up with them. We're in the process of acquiring a place outside the city. We're in negotiations. We don't have nothing on paper yet. What we're wanting to do with the board is to figure out a fair process of repaying the board. Something that we can afford. We're probably not going to be in business for probably at least another 2 months or 3, depending on how fast we get things cleaned up. Pending a inspection of the facility. We do have people or a person lined up as our equipment is in the agreement that we need to present that for sale. We do have an individual that is interested in purchasing the equipment. We just still got to work out a agreement with our lawyer and our landlord to retrieve said property. So we're here today to hopefully throw ourselves at the board's mercy. And come up with a fair way of repaying the city.
What property does your landlord have?
The
Kitchen equipment.
The kitchen
tables.
Kitchen equipment?
Yes.
Like what? Stove, refrigerator?
Refrigerator, stove, deep fryers.
Did you guys remove any equipment out of there?
I acquired my smoker last weekend.
Inside the restaurant?
And this was on the outside.
Nothing on the inside?
No, sir. I've been locked
No
out.
chairs, no tables, no...
I've been locked out and trespassed from my place of business.
Yeah. Well, Okay.
Well, you can't sell it then.
You can't sell it if it's locked up, and you can't get into it because of...
I've got a paper from Dale, the city attorney, stating that we need to retrieve said property for sale or to be sold in repayance of the grant money. Do we or do we not, Jack?
Yeah, you've got a letter from him that says you have to sell it or something, but what I'm asking is how do you get inside to get it?
Well, we got an appointment with our attorney next Tuesday.
We're seeking legal counsel to get inside the building and get said property.
They need an extension, folks.
That's up to the board. If as long as it's legal, this guy keeps you out of jail. You can do what you want to do.
That ain't no problem.
I mean, we've been fair with.
Hold on just a second.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel comfortable having this discussion at a public meeting.
I don't think either.
Yeah.
I think we should put this in an executive session.
Well, not, I don't think you guys should say too much. I think your attorney would probably not want you to.
Yeah. And I think we need to discuss.
Well, there's nothing to discuss really. I mean, there's an agreement and there's parts of the agreement and we all know where we are. So I don't think there's much to talk about.
Okay.
But to be fair to you guys, I think you'd want to limit what you say and have it go through your attorney, and it'll work out the way it works out.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
I'd like to approve the claims once they're properly
Could
certified.
I make a motion?
You can make a motion
Before
if
you
want
get into that. As you've seen tonight, we've got a big meeting. We've had a long meeting. We've had a lot on the table. I still would like to have 2 meetings a month. And I'd like to make a motion to that effect, if the board would go along with me.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Motion and a second.
What we got going on?
It wouldn't be a necessary item, I don't think. I mean, if we had a slow month, we don't need the second meeting, that's fine with me, but with this, I think we need to think about 3 or 4 items on our agenda before we make a ruling.
Okay. So your motion, Paul, is to, if the agenda is loaded, we would move part of them to a second meeting in that month.
That'd tickle me.
If the agenda is lighter, we could just have 1 meeting in that month.
Yeah.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed?
And that'd be your
Motion
decision.
passed.
Okay.
Okay, has everyone had a chance to look at the claims? If so, I'd like to have a motion to approve so we can pay the bills.
So moved.
Moved. Okay, thanks, Morgan.
Second it.
Second. Moved and seconded to pay the claims once properly certified. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Comments from the audience?
Hey,
Mr. Seymour?
we were going to ask Tony.
Tony,
Sell
do you have any additional information for us?
not contract
I'm
stuff or
sorry.
anything
I'm
like
sorry.
that, but any updates for us?
Tony Stroud, nice to see y'all. What Brian says pretty much, accurate. I've already spoke to the existing engineer. Our plan is not to use the existing engineer if I do this. Our plan is to bring it local, but as of right now, he has all the calculations and the loads. Everybody I've spoke with, including my own personal, building experience, we still feel that whether I do this building or it goes to someone else, or sticks with the city, that this secondary proposal on the way this wall is going to look is at least gives you guys an option to say, hey, this is now all glass, we're actually adding some structure. So we don't have current pricing yet. It's still our feeling, or my feeling, that the way that I'm proposing to do this wall is still going to come in less, or not to exceed the original bid on the original wall. That's engineering, that's everything. So that would be my only real comment, but everything else seems to be moving along just fine. There was a lot of engineering damage, or that has come up through engineering, that we just weren't sure of, and still not sure. I think that's what some of the things Brian wanted to discuss. It's just too hard to move it from one engineer to another, because we want to try to get this outside cleaned up before the park opens. Okay? Anything further?
Any other questions, comments?
Thank you.
Comments from the audience? Ms. Kreider? Mr. Seymour?
I got it. Just planting the seed, just giving people thinking. I talked to the mayor 2-3 weeks ago. I think he liked it. And
Paul, one more.
That's all right. I'll look at it.
No, then you go.
Yeah, we'll share.
Huh?
We'll share.
We can share. Oh, he's tough. You know? What?
Thank you, Randy. I can see you coming in the clutch.
guys, what this is thought. We're doing a civic park right now, and I think everybody's pretty proud of it. And what I'm trying to do, and I had M. Strand and MSKS and whatever their initials are, MKS. I had them do a rendering, and they did it for free. What this is for, I'm hoping we could get the steering committee together. I'm hoping we could get Mr. Ackles together. I'm hoping Brian could arrange possibly the steering committee to look into a small sit-down area. I've got about 5 plans of some riverfront development over in my office at Conservancy. Over the years, we've talked about doing different things, and this could be the first step. I would encourage people to go to the top of the parking garage to the Ohio side of Ivy Tech, and to look when you're walking on the trail, when you're parking in the garage, there's an area that's got a lot of square feet that slopes back to the garage so that it can get ventilation to it. If you can imagine building a retaining wall to keep that ventilation and filling that, making it level, and what you see is a few of the architect's ideas, and as the guys knows, you know, those ideas just get your brain flowing. And what I would like to entertain only is the thought process of hiring this group to come up with a number to see if it might be feasible to take and try to do a little bit. We've got an elevator that's used for absolutely nothing. If you look on that, it'll show a walkway over to the park. You can drive up to it. In the past, we've got a hotel now that likes to have music on Friday and Saturday nights, and you've got cars driving up on top of the levee. I just think it might be the time, and it might be the most inexpensive time, and I don't think this project would be real expensive. It shouldn't be. It's not a huge project, but it could tie into the park and possibly tie into the river and get people's thought process, you know, tie in with Ivy Tech. The park people reading, looking at the river, and what all I was hoping to do tonight was to encourage the redevelopment commission to maybe get the steering committee of the park together to meet with Strand to see if there might be something we can work out for see where this might go, compare costs, and just plant a seed and see if anybody would be interested in it. And
Are you asking for that, or are you asking for what you asked a few minutes ago? That we get a cost from them?
Well, we're going to have a cost. I think they're going to want paid to come up with a cost. So the first thing would be to have a conversation with them to see, hey, what would you charge us to come, meet with us, finalize the idea, and then put a cost on it to the point to where the group can, together could make a decision, yes or no, it's too high, or it's something we don't want to do. And if you guys don't want to do it, that's fine. I just sitting back, and I wanted to put it in the hands. And if anybody's got any questions, I just would encourage you guys to look at it, look at the area. Right now, it's kind of wasted space, and there's a lot of talk on how beautiful and everything the river is, and wanting to look at it. And I think a few swings in the sitting area might be something. We're going to have to think about doing something in front of the hotel at some point. We just can't keep having that traffic up there.
I was just going to say this would help alleviate some of that problem, wouldn't it?
I would hope so. I would think at some point if we could get access for the people to view the river and to sit down up there, I would think that could be for delivery only or something like that. I just don't know. It gets pretty crowded up there on Fridays and Saturdays when they're playing their music, and they've done it now for 2 years, and I don't expect it to stop. So,
Mr. Chairman,
that's all I
said. You showed it to the mayor?
I think he was pretty favorable to it. I just know that it's not something that we want to do unless everybody's on board, and there has to be a cost behind it.
So
thank you. That's why I take. Put the initial steering, and the scope of the project would be to do a charrette, have them come down for a couple hours one afternoon. We'll go over, different. And get some sort of consensus out of that meeting. Go for cost, and then we could refine the details, just like we did the park.
I think they're going to want paid to do that.
I just want to make sure I know.
Yep.
I got it. That's what they call it.
Sounds interesting.
You put red dots on the things you blue dots on the things you don't, and it works out pretty good, actually.
is there a motion to proceed with Mr. Seymour's proposal?
I'd make such a motion.
That motion would include, that motion would include paying the engineering firms to come down and put some numbers together for.
If they ask for money, yeah.
You ever been to church? Same thing.
They did this for free, he just said. I mean, they'll come up and meet with us.
Yeah. Is there a second?
Yeah. We have
You second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed. Ms. Kreider?
Hey, Paul. This is nice. Sure.
Thank you. I'm glad you're exploring Mr. Seymour's idea. He showed it to me. I think it's really important because it's an extension of the and it works connectivity to the river, which is, I think, the ultimate goal here, and the park is the start of that.
I can't imagine how you wouldn't like it. I mean,
I like it, yeah. But there is one other thing, too. It's kind of an extension of the park that I wanted to bring to your attention, and perhaps when your steering committee gets together, this is something you could discuss, is we're working very hard at Main Street with a which is community. And at this point, a huge array of activities for that park this summer. So it's going to be very well used. But the one thing that we don't have, well, this summer we're going to have to use, and especially in the heat of summer. So as your steering committee gets together, I would ask that you look at the possibility of some of the property which is adjacent to the Union Building together there. If you've been to Rising Sun, you've seen the one that they have there near the end of the street, near the stage and everything. I think those portalettes and extended use of portalettes are going to begin presenting some issues just based on past experience. And I would ask that you would possibly consider looking at something like that on property, since you still have that property and own it, that you might consider putting something like that. It wouldn't really impact the park. The park could still look very beautiful, but it would be very handy to the park. That's
great.
Thank you.
We won't be done on the 10th.
They won't be done then, but there are going to be some.
Supposed to be.
Mr. Clausen.
I can't help but point out that my proposal includes a total of 6 restrooms that would be open to the public.
Yeah, but what are your hours, Mr. Clausen?
Any other comments from the audience? Not. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I need a second. Seconded. All in favor?
Bill?
Hey. That I brought mine
Bill,
with me,
thank
Paul. Gave it to him. When you dropped them off, I brought mine with me and gave it to him. I don't know.
Brian?
Well, I'm a good one.